And now, please welcome on stage back Martina Koederitz, Almerima, and Franziska Divis. And yes, a warm welcome, applause again. And now we have, or you have the chance to be an active part of our panel discussion. Therefore, you can take your mobile phone and then visit the website slido.com and enter the event code CBIT18 and go to our hall 17. And I will receive all the questions here on my iPad, very digital today. And then I can ask all the questions to our fantastic panelists. So let's start. Martina Koederitz, what was the most impressive or inspiring experience in terms of diversity that you have had?
I would say really inspiring for me is our CEO, Ginny Rometty, and also all the other female leadership we had in IBM. So going 20 years back, there was Linda Stanford as a female. She was honored a couple of years as a working mom as well and leading different businesses on the top level. So I think the IBM female leadership was most inspiring for my career, but also about my thinking. It's me who decides where I want to go, and it's not the other who decides where I could be.
Franziska, do you have a special role model or special situation in terms of diversity that you inspired you the most?
Yeah, so basically, I mean, and I talked about this, right? Diversity is not only male, female, so it's a kind of pool, and I always find inspiring people that actually live the diversity way and that are entrepreneurs of saying, okay, I'm really watching out for the diverse setup. Those are the ones that really inspire me, and we have a lot of those in our company because this has been in our DNA forever, basically. I mean, I joined close to 20 years ago, and even though it wasn't a topic then, it didn't feel like it had to become a topic in one day. So I kind of grew into that anyway, and this is where I said, you need to trust what you can achieve. You need to also trust in your own strength, and if you are the one that's kind of bringing that to the table of saying, hey, I really want to make sure that I'm also role modeling diversity or a certain aspect, this is basically what makes a difference for us.
And Marima, what is your most impressive or inspiring experience in terms of diversity?
My impressive experience goes back to a project for a multinational energy company last year. A domain which is, you may say, pretty male-dominated domain. And here we come with a team of data scientists, which was pretty diverse, not only in the cultural aspects, but also in the educational aspects. But most importantly, what was interesting is that we had more female data scientists as male data scientists. So what started with kind of doubt and skepticism ended up with a truly trusting relationship at the highest level of credibility. And if you ask me what was that differentiator, what made in this particular case, it was that female showed a greater level of commitment to quality and excellence.
Okay, Constanze, what about you?
I think mine is very, just on a very personal level when, I mean, I have worked for great big organizations and great organizations before, but I think working for Facebook has been the first time that I've worked for a really global organization that has a really and truly diverse workforce. And just coming into a room and seeing more people that look like me, more women, having a boss who is really kicking ass with like 3 children now, having those kind of role models and really being able to connect to those women was just mind-blowing to me. And it was only then that I realized how much I actually missed it and how empowering it is not to always be the only one. So I think, yeah, just working for a company where there is diversity, even though we're not there yet where we want and need to be, has been for me the most precious moment. Yeah.
And what would you say, to what extent is diversity improving your daily working life?
Very much, but I would also say that diversity and dealing with diversity is also hard, right? It's uncomfortable sometimes because, of course, we always tend to think that working with mini-me's is the best thing because, you know, it's predictable and just more easy. So it's sometimes hard because I work in a lot of cross-functional projects. So really working with a lot of people from diverse backgrounds with diverse perspectives on a topic can be cost a lot of energy sometimes, but it is always worth it because by the end it's always enriching. The projects are better, the products are better, and for me personally, I always feel like the learning curve is so much higher. When I finished a project with people from 10 different backgrounds, which has been very, you know, very annoying maybe sometimes, but when I finish that project, it's actually, I really feel like that I've grown. So, and I think it's only from those kind of challenges that you actually grow. So diversity is definitely something I cherish very much, even though it's sometimes also stressful.
Martina, we talked a lot about different industries, but let's have a look on maybe small or medium-sized companies. And what are your tips? What tips do you have for small or medium-sized companies to become more innovative through diversity?
Yeah, so I think the first one, because we have all this new technology, which is also accessible for smaller companies, they really can use this. Secondly, I think what we are seeing is how to engage in networks and in partnerships, so not to do everything by yourself. And yes, I think what we have seen in Germany, that you are starting to have a diverse workforce, and we mentioned it a couple of times. It's not only male and female, it's also diversity in background of people, in profession of the people. We talked about younger people. In this days, we are talking a lot about how do you assemble teams with millennials and senior experience guys. And we believe that really partnering in different dimensions is helping large organizations to learn from small, but also give small organizations access to different kind of skill, expertise, and know-how.
Mm-hmm. Millennials is a good point, Almarima. Mm-hmm. Do you think that we have kind of a new generation that has different demands on the job, or also a new generation of women who approach careers differently?
Millennials. I consider myself millennial, and indeed I believe that millennials are kind of generally characterized by this shift in their approach to career and work. And I was kind of observing around me, and I saw that millennials are asking things like, for sure, smart, flexible working hours. They ask about possibility to grow in the company, developments. They ask about whether the culture in the company is about positive feedback, whether it's about cooperative environment, etc. So, you know, I believe that millennials, if they start to work for a company, then they want to work for the company, not because they have to. You know, that holds for me as well. They choose for work for the company because they really believe in that company. And for female millennials, I don't think they are different from their male counterparts. They are, I observe my female colleagues who are strong, who know what they want, who work, but at the same time they are very well aware of these things and demand these things from the companies.
So let's drop a question from the audience to our panel discussion. Maybe Franziska, you can answer this. Do you have experience with mentoring programs for women in business? Do you think mentoring programs can help lead to inclusion? What are the challenges? Maybe, Constanze, you can answer to.
Okay, sure. So yes, I have experience with mentor programs. We apparently have both. We have mentor programs as well as coaching programs, and both of them are, I would say, a little different, and it depends of what is the business need you're having. Whereas, like, if you have a coach, it's more generic in terms of it could be on any kind of what business decision should I take the role, etc. Whereas mentoring for me goes a little longer. So mentoring for me is really a process on a specific problem that you're engaged with, or a certain challenge or something where you say, how do I adopt my behavior? How do I tackle that problem that's in front of me, and how can I get into the game, and how can I basically grow over time? But I think it's a very good approach to have that. I've been using both in the past, and for me important is I don't only have like one mentor. I have a variety of mentors actually, because it depends what the subject is that you're really trying to tackle. And I believe that if you have this set of mentors, they're much more helpful because they bring, again, a diverse setup of opinions that you can kind of navigate within. And for me, this is really vital in order to progress in the business and career.
Constanze, you talked about mentor and also sponsor. Maybe what is the difference for you?
In that particular case that I was referring to, it's actually that the employee resource groups that we have, like the Black Ad group, they have sponsors from the leadership team. We call them sponsors. So they're not it's not a one-on-one mentorship, but it's rather a support by a leader for a certain group and the causes that this group tries to bring forward. Mentorship, like you said, can really come to life on various levels, on various stages in life. It really depends on the topic that you have. But I would encourage everyone that even if your company, if your organization doesn't have like a full flexed out mentor program, just go and look for mentors. I mean, you would be surprised. I mean, if you approach people and really ask them if you're intentional about it, and ask them if they can, help you in a certain situation with a certain project or with a certain part of your life, there is a lot of openness to do so. But like I said, if your company doesn't have a mentorship program, it should not keep you away from just asking people to be mentors, because there is a lot of openness to do so.
And do you have experiences with the mentoring programs?
Yes, I do. And I have to say, I think it always depends. I think mentoring is not self-serving, right? So because what you said is completely also my experience. You have to be intentional about it. You really have to know, and this goes for both sides, what you want out of this relationship, right? Because just having a mentor is, well, yeah, just having a mentor, but is there a concrete problem you want to solve with this mentor? Are there concrete networks you want to have support on, getting access to certain networks through the mentor? And I think I've not always been, frankly, the smartest when approaching like the mentor programs that, I was invited to do, because I wasn't really very intentional about it, right? So I think you really have to make up your mind. What do you want from your mentor at what time, and then you can get the most out of it.
Let's turn our attention to the responsibility of our society in terms of diversity. Martina, what can our society do to promote diversity in companies?
I think we are already doing a lot. As I think all of us said, diversity, it's not a new theme. I think it's getting a new dimension in the combination, how we are using technology in these days. How do we really empower people to be more self-responsible, how they use technology? And I think what we need to do is to understand that technology is not something which will happen somewhere in an industry or a business. Technology we are using every day in every situation, starting with the smartphone, starting with the iPhone, starting with the access to the internet. So I think it's shaping our understanding that technology is getting part of our life, that the knowledge we need to adapt as a society, as an individual, it's a key requirement to do my life better, but also to get better in my profession, whatever I'm doing. And so it's a mutual relation between society and business, because business is as good as the society develops skill and know-how, and business can do a lot to empower people either in the business or what I mentioned before, what we are doing with schools, with university, or what we have announced with new collar jobs. How do we train people who are not in the profession around IT, but train them to get the skills and the competencies to deal with Internet of Things, mobility, analytics, or artificial intelligence.
And Almarima, what would you say, what do you think are the biggest challenges we face, not only in Germany, to achieve a truly inclusive working environment? We heard a lot about the chances, but what do you think, what are the challenges?
Yeah. I somehow I believe it's difficult to answer to this question, right? I believe truly that quite a lot starts and ends with individuals, and if companies try to install people who have at those places which are critically important and strategically important, then I believe that, and those people who actually believe that new ways of working is a win-win, and that who adapt these new ways of, working, this flexible, diverse, etc. I think that is the way to go forward. Yeah.
We have a very interesting question from the audience. I think it's especially for you, Franziska.
Okay.
It was mentioned that empathy is women's strength in the work environment. What do you consider to be men's strength?
I think, in all honesty, it's networking. And
Okay.
this is a strength that men definitely have. They don't need to learn that. And I think this is their advantage, because they're very strong on saying, okay, I build my networks, maybe not the female style, but the male style, based on needs and functions. And with that, it's a very natural approach to them. And I think this is what kind of brings into the game very interesting approach. Because with empathy, you can, of course, look at people and understand a lot better, but with network, you can already make a big difference.
Mm-hmm. What do you think?
I just want to add one thing. I totally agree, and that's maybe why we started years ago to build this kind of female network. But I tell many of my mentees, female mentees I had over the year, I think it's also a different in thinking. Mm-hmm. Female always want to be perfect.
Yeah.
Yes, and we want to be the perfect mom, we want to be the perfect wife, we want to be the perfect manager or whatever. I said perfect is the enemy of good, and I think men are good.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and this last mile is how you make, or how you see how females are applying for new jobs. Mm-hmm. They are doing much more thinking about themselves. I'm ready, I'm the right timing, is I'm as good as the other one. And male have more confidence in themselves that even if there is maybe not everything ready yet, that they can learn it. Yeah, and I say perfect is the enemy of good. And if you are convinced you want to do something, then you will learn the rest on the way you are going.
But how can we push the confidence of and for women, Constanze?
I think there are various ways, and maybe also to add to the latter question, I think what is also not a strength of women is having those crucial conversations, right? So being like really hard about a topic, about a project, really going back and forth with your teammate about it, and then just go for a beer or a wine afterwards. So I think men are really good at that, right? Really belling themselves over whatever and really engaging in those hard conversations, and then just go for a beer, and that's fine. While as women are very much, consensus orientated and take things indeed more easily personal. So I think talking about those crucial conversations, I think really strengthening that muscle to have those crucial conversations, to not take things so easily personally, is definitely one thing. And I think also along the notion that this is a muscle, not everybody is born confident or as a leader, but you can get there, right? With every, I don't know, panel discussion, with every discussion you have internally, with every time you speak up in a meeting, you get better and better and better. And I think there is comfort in the notion that, you know, you can get better. So I think trainings and again, having leaders who empower those women and to give them space and to give them the opportunity to speak at a meeting, to hold a presentation, really builds their muscle and gives them opportunity to do so. And this is very important.
And how did you personally work on your confidence?
Well, doing stuff like this, right? Which is not my natural habit. But I think I learned to embrace being uncomfortable. So I'm not afraid anymore of being uncomfortable. It's not that I enjoy it, but I'm not afraid of going there because I know the next step is, hey, I've grown again a bit. And I think it's just this mindset that helps me to work on my confidence more and more.
Mm-hmm. Martina Koederitz.
And I think it's, as I mentioned in my speech, I think we have a great timing because with all this technology, with all the changes in the way how we are working, you are getting out of the hierarchical organization. You see in most of the companies that things are get organized more on a network. You have different peer groups, which makes it easier. Yeah, to really get visibility, to get transparency, to take, what you said, but to bring this forward. And so it's a good timing to rethink what female want to achieve, but also use all the changes where we all have a different opportunity not to stay in a hierarchical organization, but use the platform where you are working, where you are engaged, to make your point, what you want to achieve. And I always think careers, it's not only manager, it's also take professional leadership, take leadership for specific topics, take leadership in leadership, in management. I think that's coming together at a very nice point now.
Exactly, because we need women in all the levels, and not only the management or.
You mentioned it before, the innovation part, and when we have a look on especially innovation, what do you think, what kind of mindset do we need to implement innovation in companies? Do we need a different mindset, maybe?
I don't know if we need a different one because, look, in Germany we have a lot of innovative company. I think the point is, where is innovation going now? Because in the past, I think innovation was very much on product, on excellence, on specific technology. I would say innovation now is also how you broaden your network, how you bring together different experience, how you bring together different backgrounds, because diversity, again, is a driver of different thinking, and the different thinking is a driver for innovation. I think also innovation is something where you need to have the room where people can think without inhibitors, can think without limitation. Yeah, because I don't know if somebody was thinking before the iPhone that we need a phone to access internet. Yeah, today you are turning it around and say iPhone, some people still using it to make a phone call, but most people using it to use the access to data and information and internet. So how do you create a space where people can really think very open, without inhibitors, without restrictions, to think above and beyond?
I would like to add a question from the audience. Are there environments in which specialized viewpoints are preferred to diverse ones? What do you think on the panel? Do we have environments in which specialized viewpoints are preferred to diverse ones? Maybe in your field? I don't know, data science?
No, I would answer this question as probably these environments are not mature yet. That's the only reason why they think that specialized viewpoints are better than diverse one. I could not explain this question than saying maybe they are still not mature in some aspect, but
And the following question is, I've often heard that women need to adapt to corporate culture. What do you think? Is it companies or women who should adapt, or is there a middle ground? Franziska, maybe.
Yeah, I think definitely this is about being versatile, right? This is about reading the system and to say, okay, how much do I adapt, but how much does the company adapt? And only in the combination you can be successful. It's not 100%, okay, that person needs to adapt to fit the company or vice versa. This is always a common ground, right? In order to be able to work together and to be also happy at the company, because I would not want to work at a company where I have to adapt and be a totally different person every day. So I basically get up in the morning and once I enter the company building, I have to be a different person. So no, thank you, I don't want to work for that company, right? So, but also vice versa. Maybe if there's a company that says, okay, but this is our culture, this is how we want to do things, great. But again, maybe I'm not the right person for them. And I think that's where, in the middle of all those things, this is where you can be most successful.
And what do you think, what are the most challenges in terms of different point of views?
Well, it takes time, right, to discuss them, especially if you have that diverse setup of opinions.
And do you have a diverse team in your...
Yes. Yes, I would say yes, definitely. I have about 10 people reporting to me, and yeah, I mean, of course, you cannot always pick everybody out, and you have to live with certain legacy. But then I think I can also get some of the passion points or some of the skill sets of those people out that they weren't even aware of. So, for example, we are using a very good tool. It's called Strength Finder, and basically, we are sharing that very openly of who has what strength. And with that, we believe that there's transparency within the team, because it's okay if some person is more analytic, the other person is more saying, hey, I'm hunting for new business, and the third person says, well, don't put me in front of a customer, I want to be the back office. Cool, that's good, that's what we need, right? But only if you appreciate what the skills of the people are, you can actually set up your team for the right set, because I don't want to send that person that wants to be the back office to a new customer and say, go enjoy yourself, right? So that's what we want to avoid. And so it's very important to know the strengths of people, build on them, and with that you can also set up your diverse team.
Let's stay on this point, Constanze, because we talked a lot about innovation and being open-minded. And but how do we not overwhelm our employees in terms of innovation and new stuff and a new working culture?
I think it's again rather a question of leadership and the way your organization or team is set up. So I think putting the pressure or the responsibility on the employee causes stress, right? I've recently heard from a friend that he actually has in his quarterly goals basically the goal to come up with an innovative idea. That they've really framed it that way, right? Come up with one innovative idea. Yes, he is stressed because, I mean, how do you just come up with an innovative idea? But if you really, and you talked about that, Martina, if you really provide the workspace, a safe environment where you can speak up, where you can be collaborative, where you have time to work with other teams, where you're encouraged by your leader, then you have space to come up with those kind of innovative ideas. But again, the pressure should not be on the employee, because you can't just top-down prescribe that stuff, but it's really about the working culture that enables that, and that makes you feel comfortable also with change. So I think the pressure shouldn't be on the employee in that.
Martina, what do you think? Is it a responsibility of leaders or more of employees?
For sure, it's the responsibility as leader to give people who join your company the opportunity to get access to what they need to do a good job. And so as we discussed, first of all, culture is the outcome, what leaders are doing. Culture is the outcome of what is the value framework you are setting, and how do you empower people to work and experiment and live in this kind of value network. And we are talking a lot about how how do you build now a culture where people understand and like it and love it, that we are in a learning organization? Yeah, it's you know, in the past, and that's what really changing in mindset. In the past, you have done your education, you have done your studies, and then you are started as an IT architect, and you have been an IT architect over 30 years, and maybe you have to retrain once. Yeah, now maybe we don't need any more IT architect, we would call him cloud architect, or we are talking about data scientists. We don't know what is the next technology coming in 5 years. So we all need to be very clear. It doesn't matter what I'm doing at the beginning, I will be getting better if I'm learning and training with all the new trends and elements are coming. And that's what you need to set as a new framework. The culture is the outcome, the values, and one of the values will be, how do I make my organization intelligent, a self-learning organization, a permanent learning organization?
And maybe let's add the networking discussion from before, because there's a very interesting question. If networks are the new normal and men are experts in networking, where do women get their chance for career and growth, especially in men-dominated industries? Maybe it's a good question for you.
I already explained, I hope, in my talk that within data science there is a space for women to enter, because it's not only about being technical or being mathematical. All the other skills are actually very much appreciated and wanted within my field. And specifically about the networking, men may be good networker, but there is no reason to think that we are not as good as they are.
Do you have especially female role models in the data scientist industry?
Honestly, I don't like to think about in those terms like female, male, because I studied technical studies, and I've been always in a male kind of dominated world, and I feel kind of natural. I don't feel any danger being in that, in that world. So I'm not sure I'm the right person to answer that question. For me, someone who is good at work is a person to follow. That's as simple as that.
Franziska, what are your thoughts on this question?
Yeah, I mean, for me, this is about embracing the importance to do networking, right? This is not about being the victim sitting out there saying, I wish I could do networking better. This is really about saying, okay, how do I get the skills, the competence, the desire, the passion for, okay, let me network too. And I think it's the worst if you say, okay, I can only join female networks in the future because only there I feel trust. But maybe it's a good first step to say, I go to kind of some networking events where I feel I have a comfort zone, but I also put myself out there and say, I try it. I really demonstrate my openness. I go to a table of women maybe that are standing at an event and say, hey, I'm Franzi, nice to meet you, who are you? Right? And this is important to demonstrate the openness and not shy away from that. Or if you feel that this is too much out of your comfort zone, take a friend, take a female friend and say, hey, introduce me, maybe you're better in that, right? And then you're thrown into that. And I think this is kind of the foundation. And I think as a second step, once you've kind of overcome that hurdle, I think it's getting better and better to kind of also see that it's okay and nobody is feeling awkward about it, and that's very important.
And do you have...
Maybe,
yes.
Can I just add to that? I think I totally agree. I think within a company you can also network, right?
Sure.
So create those groups and find people who share the same challenges to just get empowered. I talked about these groups that we have and other companies do as well. But also, I think, again, the responsibility shouldn't only be on the women or on the minority or the marginalized group in a company, but rather this is also a question, again, for leadership to create opportunities and also maybe to be an ally, right? Because like you said, it's empowering to be with other women in this particular case. But if you want to change something, you really need someone, from the other side to basically, support you, open doors for you. So you do have to engage somehow, but it is hard. But I think the responsibility should not be solely on you, but it is in the interest of the company to ensure that there is this kind of exchange and not just, those exclusive male networks. So if you work for a company that really cares about it, they will make sure to really find, you allies and to help you basically to open doors and be part of that conversation.
But do you have maybe, let's say, 3 tips for the audience in terms of networking, maybe in the company or outside? Maybe never lunch alone, or...
Well, apparently, my tip that actually I'm doing myself is, at every event that I'm like, my goal is to meet at least one new person that I've never talked to before, by whatever means.
Check.
Yeah, so today met a couple of new people. But really, this is like, no matter how big the event is, or where I'm like, okay, asking myself, what am I doing at this event? I'm like, no, I'm not leaving here without just that one new contact. And if I'm too shy to just approach somebody, I just go to somebody I know and say, hey, so who would you recommend I can talk to, reach out? And I've had so many nice conversations that would unlock further potential for further meetings, further business discussions, that this is just amazing. And I wanted to give another tip. Take it with a smile, right? This is what we always forget. This is like, oh, this is all serious business. No, be happy about it. Go with a smile, be relaxed, and just make sure you have fun when you're doing that.
But maybe you can also use the digital channels for networking. Do you use like Twitter or LinkedIn or
all of the above,
or Facebook? Yeah, and then maybe you can communicate with other people, maybe also from different countries. So let's go to our final round. And Martina, I have a question for you. We talked about diversity and creating innovation is not always easy, but what are now your tips for the audience that you can give on how to achieve these things?
So we already mentioned a lot of topics. First of all, I think it's openness and curiosity. Look, not everybody is a leader, and not everybody wants to be a leader. Not everybody wants to have a career, but if curiosity and openness is something I think you can learn the most, you can network easily today because all companies are network me time. Yeah, when you talked about male network, it was in the old days where we still have a hierarchical communication and also not the way to communicate as we can communicate today, through social network, through mobile, through whatever you mentioned. The second topic is if you want to make a career, you need to answer some question for yourself. Yeah, it's never ever that someone is giving you a career, someone is giving you an opportunity, but what you are doing out of this opportunity, it's what is your passion and your dedication. And the third dimension is, as I said, specifically in terms of female, but I think we need to talk leadership also in terms of diversity, so to give everybody the opportunity, but in female, I already mentioned it, don't think so perfect, but speak up if you want to have an opportunity. Yeah, I can tell in my experience, male are much more straighter to articulate what they want to do or what is their ambition, and female are sometimes too silent to articulate it at the right level, though that people know I'm ready to do a next job. People know that I would be, for example, mobile also to move into a different country or to move into another business. So just articulate what is in your mind, what you would like to do next.
Thanks, so empowering. Marima, your tips, final tips.
I can share with you what we do in the company, in our company, to embrace diversity and innovation. For sure, all these things need to start from the top, because you have to lead by example. Very important thing is to create the collaborative environment, so have those platforms where you can communicate with people, do whatever you need to do in order to support these platforms. For sure, install people at those strategically important places, because these people are driven, they are qualified, they want to make a change, and these people should have a feeling that they can make a change. I think that is also important. Then for the others, make sure that you can find these people, you know, those crucial people in your company. Communicate success, repeat it, communicate quite a lot those success stories. Make sure if a success is made somewhere that it's repeatable, and yeah, maybe it's quite a lot about the networking. So make sure that you have the network in your organization and that crucial people are installed at the right places, and that everybody else who is interested to do something doesn't have to lose time in finding the information and those people.
Franziska.
Well, for me, it's all about perseverance. So basically, make sure that you don't lose your breath after you're half done with the distance, right? It's very important to kind of keep talking about diversity over and over, to talk about networking over and over, and just make sure that you never lose faith, basically. And I think at the same time, role model, or excite other people, maybe that are not role modeling in the limelight, but that are role modeling behind the scenes. They're also helping people to kind of connect and adapt, and this is most important.
Constanze.
Yeah, I would definitely agree to all of that what you said. I think being an ally is very important. So for me, having allies, of course, but also for me being an ally, because we all have privileges and we all have power because we are, I don't know, more senior than others, for example. And so really being empathic about it and conscious about it, and seeing where others need help to speak up, or to come up with a project, or whatever it is. So really just look out for them, especially look out for the younger women, because they do need allies. This is definitely one thing. Another thing I will really want to iterate what you just said. Diversity inclusion is a process. Never ask when it's done, because it's never ever done, right? So this is actually the state of being, and I think just taking this really into account and into heart, and knowing, okay, there might be small steps, there might be backlashes, but we're in this and it's not going away. That also helps to keep the breath and be intentional about it.
Thanks for this very inspiring panel. And as Martina said, think big, communicate, connect today. Use the chance, take the chance, and then we are going to have next sessions which are very inspiring. But thanks again for this very interesting and empowering panel. So make some noise. Woo, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.